Hi, welcome to Scratching the Surface with the Dodger Wheelhouse Podcast. I'm Mac. This is a quick, minimally researched glance at a baseball topic. Basically, we do a little bit of work so you don't have to. Today we're talking about the Cleveland Spiders. To keep this short, we're going to have a 5-minute timer and try to give you as much info before it runs out. Let's get started. So let's run that timer now. The Cleveland Indians, as I'm sure most are aware, have a bit of a checkered past with their name and their branding, and with recent events in the Washington football team, who were formerly known as the Redskins. Comparison being obvious, changing their name, it looks like the Indians have finally decided to go the route of changing. They're removing themselves completely from any branding associated with Native Americans. So a name like the Tribe, for example, is out. They're moving 100% another direction. So we thought we'd look at one of the most common suggestions in potential names, which harkens back to their history in the Spiders. So the Spiders have had a lot of mock-ups, really good ones, as you can see, and it looks great. Right? There's a lot of support behind it. There are a lot of detractors. So to get into that, we should look into their history. So the Spiders are among other names of former teams in Cleveland, with the Indians' former names including the Lakeshores, the Blues, the Broncos, and the Naps. The name Spiders actually comes from the players being dressed in black and gray and being tall and skinny and looking like spiders. The name kind of stuck. So without further ado, let's get into their history. So the Cleveland Spiders have a rather unremarkable history, at least in the beginning. So in 1887 and 1888, they were part of the now-defunct American Association before moving to the National Leagues in 1889. In 1892, the team actually did make the World Series, which at the time was a best-of-9 series in the first-half champions versus the second-half champions. They ended up facing the Boston Bean Eaters, and when faced with a possible cancellation of the series due to poor weather, Cleveland's player-manager Patsy DeBow hilariously suggested that the Boston Bean Eaters fear the humiliation of possible defeat and said the cold weather was simply an excuse to avoid playing Cleveland. The Bean Eaters, of course, did not end up folding. They decided to play Cleveland, and they won 5 games with no losses and 1 draw. The 1 draw coming in the first game, where the game was called Due to Darkness, which, if you ask me, is hilarious. They then reverse swept, of sorts, the latter 5 games and thoroughly routed Cleveland. So in 1898, the owners of the Cleveland Spiders decided to buy the St. Louis Browns, who they would then name to the St. Louis Perfectos. They would then trade all of the good players from the Spiders over to the Perfectos, and all the bad players from the formerly Browns to the Spiders, and create a super team, hence the name Perfectos. This is, of course, a blatant conflict of interest, but they don't quite care. They're making a lot of money. They believe that St. Louis was a superior baseball town, and they'd make more money there, so as far as they were concerned, Cleveland was a sideshow. This was something they publicized openly, and would later lead to the banning of multiple team holdings in the MLB. So among the war chest of players that St. Louis received from Cleveland, they would receive 3 future Hall of Famers in Cy Young, Jesse Burkett, and Bobby Wallace, as well as just some very solid players in Cupid Childs, Lou Krieger, and Cuppy. All of the latter of whom has been censored for a rather offensive nickname. So St. Louis would then send over a lot of pretty bad players, the highlight of whom, the actual only good player really, was Lave Cross, the rest of whom were quite terrible. If you look at their total WAR, or wins above replacement, a general metric for how good a player is, the St. Louis received 37.8 WAR in players with the average WAR of 2.1 per player, whereas St. Louis gave back to Cleveland 8.1 WAR in total and an average of 0.5. This is a massive disparity, and is the equivalent of trading Jacob deGrom, a 3-time Cy Young winner and future Hall of Famer, most likely, his whole career for 1 year of 2019 Mike Trout. As much as I, and I'm sure you love Mike Trout, that is a terrible trade. So the trade would lead the Spiders to have a disastrous record of 20 and 134. This is the worst record in baseball history by a pretty wide margin. They would be blown out, meaning they lost by 5 or more runs, in 69 games, which is a disaster, right? The team was bad, like really, really bad, to put it, I guess, simply. They were 84 games back at the end of the season, and at the end of the season, were 114 games under 500, which is just ludicrous. They went on, a whopping 2-game winning streak and had a similarly big 24-game losing streak. That is insane. This team was bad, and this is, the principal reason why people don't think the Spiders should be the new name for Cleveland. Do I think the Spiders should be the new name? Honestly, yeah. I think the mock-ups are really cool, and despite the spiders being, as we've seen, really, really, really bad, I think that's not enough to detract from the history of the team, and it's a cool name, it's unique, it's interesting, and I think the other names that are coming forward are soulless, and this one has some merit to it, so I'm for the spiders. And right under the time.